way, what the fuck's up with that spider?
Spider, it's like he's been hanging out by himself, so I figure as we've been talking, he's just been listening. So some people that come in here, man, he comes out and he shows his red eyes and his fangs, but yeah, he'd be all right. I'll walk out with you when we leave. Make sure he's
got
cool.
a healthy set of hair on him.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he's mean. Everybody says that.
So anyways, but Rob wrote, the Chalice of Blood main riff, which was really slow. And because it was so crazy, dude, it was all this movement. It was like, and he had this idea, it's got to be double bass. Well, our drummer didn't play double bass. He had a double bass kit, but he wasn't really double bass ready. He wasn't even close to being able to pull that off, man. And we're like, fuck, dude, this sucks trying to play this song with him. Like, fuck, he's, he already had a huge problem with me, by the way. Jim Pittman didn't like me because he thought I was evil. He thought I like Slayer and Venom, and he's all, that Craig's hella evil. He likes it. So, but he's Rob's best friend, tape trading guy, but anyway, so we're frustrated. So, and Jim knows, and he's like, I'll take lessons from my cousin. Like, all right. Who's your cousin? He's like, my cousin Paul. Like, okay. He's like, he plays drums. He plays like Deep Purple and shit. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then he could probably play some double bass. Like, right on. So that was Paul Bostaff. And so I went and saw Paul play some party at Mino's Hall where he sang and played drums and was wearing nothing but red spandex and was doing Born to Be Wild and shit, right? I'm like,
nice.
Well, I'm like, he's really good. I'm like, he's really good, but can he really play double bass? So anyway, we're there when he fucking comes over to give his first lesson to Jim. And he'd never played thrash metal. He never even heard thrash metal, dude. Paul had not heard any of what we were doing. He hadn't heard Slayer. He may have heard some Metallica. He's a rock guy.
This is the middle of 85 right now.
This is like this is like the beginning of 86.
The beginning of 86 now, so.
By then, we'd already played our house parties.
Thrash metal is now prevalent now. People know what thrash metal is. If you were aware of metal, you knew what it was. It wasn't something underground anymore.
Yeah, it was going off. It was pretty big. And so we had watched Paul do this thing with Jim where he tried to teach him how to play our song. And I just looked at Rob, and Rob looked at me, and we're like, Jim's going to be pissed because his cousin is going to replace him. And then, we went and talked to Paul, and Jim's other cousin was like, I could be in your band. He had Paul's brother, Pete Bostaff.
I know Pete very well, yeah.
So they both wanted to be in Forbidden Evil.
Wow.
And, so, we eventually went with Paul, but the rift that came after that, dude, oh my God, Jim couldn't be mad at anyone else but me because Rob was his best buddy, Paul's his cousin, the new guy, Craig, it's got to be him. So he was so fucking mad at me. So when we got Paul in the band, it caused this ripple effect of anger and hatred towards this guy. Because no one could be mad at anyone else besides me because I was the new kid and I was really obnoxious. When you met me, I was,
I was too, though, so I guess I couldn't notice it.
We can get to that.
We were all.
Yeah, but, I was younger than everybody. Our bass player was a little younger. John Tagio, who still comes around, comes to our shows. Like, John's great, man. He's a Filipino kid. Fucking not a kid anymore. But, it was a big thing. So Paul joins the band. There's all this anger, but all of a sudden, we're playing Chalice of Blood faster.
Like it was meant to be played, basically.
Almost. But even Rob wasn't playing it that fast. He didn't want it as fast as it turned out to be. It was never as... Not at any point when Rob was in the band did that song turn into what it was.
It's one of my favorite Forbidden songs.
But this is after we'd written songs like my first song that I wrote for the band by myself was "March into Fire." And I wrote the lyrics sitting on my desk at school. That's when I started writing lyrics too. I didn't write many lyrics on Forbidden Evil, but about a third of them, and I started the whole lyric thing, which came later. But yeah. So anyway, with Paul, it was becoming like, wow, you guys are going somewhere now because there's this fucking bombastic. He reminded me of Bozio. What is it?
Terry Bozio.
Terry Bozio.
Very busy. Mothers of Invention.
Yeah, he really reminded me of that, dude. I was like, wow, this guy's got this whole fucking his energy and his movements, and he's it's like fucking all of a sudden we were like, whoa, and we're getting somewhere. So I'd already known Matt Camacho through high school because he showed up one day and was there for a week and already had been in fights over girlfriends and who he fucked and He'd already,
Hot.
yeah, this is Matt Camacho's
Of course.
fucking life
Love that.
back then, you know. So, but he was a long-haired kid who thought he could play guitar, and he was horrible at guitar. He came to my house and played. I'm all, you should not. You look really cool, dude, but that's not for you. So then he came back and started playing bass, and then I was like, you know, Rob was like, fuck, man, you know, John's hella cool, but he's just really not really great. You know, he's not. We need another bass player. I know a guy. He's probably pretty good by now, you know. So I introduced him to Matt. We went and saw him at a party. He looked like, to us, he looked like a young Cliff Burton. We're like, you know, everyone's young, right? But to us, he looked like a young Cliff Burton. We're like, yeah, he could probably be pretty cool. And then Matt continued to work on Rob. You'd see him on the bus. He'd be like, I need to be in your band. It took a long time to fucking work it out. So then Matt finally, you know, gets his shot. And I remember Matt, he played his last show at you remember Vantage Point Studios in Hayward? They used to have big parties over there.
I do remember Vantage Point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they had a studio with like a parachute hanging from this.
Yeah.
So we were at a party there, and this is '86, and Matt had just played, and we're like, that's our guy. And he was saying goodbye to the band. They were pissed, but everybody knew he was going to be in Forbidden Evil. That night, they get on the PA, and they say, we got some bad news, everybody. We've just been informed Cliff Burton has been killed.
Oh, wow.
I remember that day.
The night Matt Camacho joined
Wow.
Forbidden Evil is the day that we found out, and the whole place went, ugh, because so many people knew him. Like I didn't
know him.
I didn't know
I
him.
knew him
I was
really
too
well.
young. I was too young to know
Yeah.
him. He was, you know, they're all gods to me. And so I was like, what the fuck? It was just this really incredibly fucking weird feeling. And then Matt went on to actually, he's all, you know, I'm going to join the band, but I'm going to try out. You know, they're having this rehearsal spot or wherever that was.
Yeah, there was at the rehearsal spot.
He was in and out.
Everybody tried out.
He was in
30
and out in
people.
4 minutes. Like
30 people tried out for the. I remember when they did the auditions.
more than
I was
30
there.
probably.
Well, I think it was 30.
Was it 30? Okay.
Might have been 60, maybe. Maybe it was.
The legend says.
Greggy came out. Everybody, the Yaz, anybody who played bass at them time.
Yeah.
Went
Or
out.
even if you didn't play bass, people
Right,
with guitar.
you switched over just real quick to try to get that gig because Master of Puppets was so big. I remember that.
So he didn't get the gig, needless to say, and we started playing a little bit. And this is where this whole story gets really interesting. Okay, this is where history it takes a fucking radical turn. So we get Matt in the band, and we played one show with Matt. We played that show with Legacy, his first show, Chuck's first show when you weren't in the band.
Right.
So we opened the show. It was us, Stone Vengeance,
That would have been July of '86.
Legacy, Laws Rocket, Suicidal Tendencies.
I remember that.
So we're playing. It's like
It was in Oakland,
yeah, it was at the Scottish Rites Temple.
Scottish Rites Temple. I remember that show.
It was fucking overwhelming for us to be on that show, and we played what turned into
Because I was going to rehearsals with Chuck to literally, Chuck came from, he wasn't singing in a thrash metal band
No, he was in
beforehand.
Guilt, right?
He was in
And then-
Guilt, which is pretty much like kind of like a hair metal band. So I was going to Legacy practice because we looked at it like there's no bad blood here. I'm going to go there and help Chuck get this. And I was actually coaching him on how to fire off the thrash metal vocals. And
yeah. Well, your guys' history is pretty well documented, and as it should be. But that's
Still
what
documenting it.
That's what best friends are for, man. To like fucking help each
I'm
other
writing
out.
New Testament right now.
Yeah.
I've already written 3 songs for their new record. So.
Awesome.
So,
Can't
me
wait.
and Chuck's
Yeah, you
taking-
guys are tight.
Yes.
So it was an overwhelming moment for us, and I felt like this was Matt, and he really wasn't as good as we thought he was at that point. He really wasn't, but he looked cool. So the chicks were into him, and I remember one day Rob says to Matt, he's all, "I thought you were good."
Hot.
And then Matt's all, "No, dude." He's all, "I'll be there one day. Just give me some time, you know." Matt's typical, just blow it off. So we do the show, and then and there's some back. I'm gonna go forward, and then we're gonna go back because we get ready to do a demo, and we're gonna record. This is the first demo we did. It's not a demo. It was a live rehearsal tape with Forbidden Evil, Next to Die, which turned into a violence song. And I Prophet. That was one of our first songs. That was a song Rob wrote by himself, which turned into that. So I forgot to mention that one. So here we are, about to do this historic demo. We find this guy Doug Caldwell, who Paul and I found in a fucking working the drum shop a guitar showcase who did this band called the Metal Brothers, but we like the way the drums sounded, so we're going to go use this guy. And we got all our money together, and we're really excited. And then Rob's shows up at practice, and he's like, he's in it. I got his arm in a sling. We're like, holy fuck, man, what happened? He's all, I fucking stole some beer with Roger, who's this guy he used to hang out with. And fucking cops showed up, and I was running, and I jumped over this fence, and I fell, and I fucking broke my arm. We're like, holy shit, what are we gonna do? He's like, just give it a couple weeks. He's all, I'll be able to do the demo if we push it back. So we pushed it back, and we're like, fuck, is he gonna be able to play? Like, is he gonna be all right? What's gonna happen? So he shows up at practice the day before. Well, how you feeling? He's like, I feel pretty good. So we went through the set, and we went through the songs we recorded, and we're like, dude, it's like, fuck, you're amazing. It's like you never fucking broke your arm. So we fucking go in and we record Chalice of Blood, Forbidden Evil, As Good as Dead, and Next to Die. That demo is the hardest one to find. It's with Rob on it. And, it sounded pretty good.
Guitars. We're now timeline. We're in 86.
We're still in 86.
We're still in 86.
We're still in 86. So we recorded the demo, then Rob, like, disappeared for a fucking week. Disappeared, just gone. We're like, where the fuck? We just did this demo. Like he seemed pretty distant when we were recording. What's going on? So I get a phone call from Russ about a week later. So, all right, dude, I'm gonna come pick you up. Or so no, Paul's gonna come pick me up. He's like, Paul's gonna come pick you up. We're gonna have a meeting. I talked to Rob. So I get to the studio, and I walk in the door, and Rob's sitting there with Russ, and Russ is looking pretty frustrated. And we all walk in, and then Russ is like, all right, Rob's got something to tell you. And then he just fucking goes to the room, dude, and just berates each one of us. Like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? What's wrong? Matt, you fucking suck. Oh, Russ, you're fucking too metal. Your vocals are just too this, too that, and too this. So Paul, he's like, you're pretty good, but you don't really have a metal background. And Craig, you're just fucking, you're a dick. And just this whole, I don't remember exactly because it was all just like, is when you're a kid, it turns into a little pin light of like, you can't, you're probably going to want to change that over pretty quick, but you can't fucking even distinguish what's going on. It was so heavy for me because not just that he was quitting the band to join Violence, but because exactly almost to the day a month earlier, Jerry and Perry came to my house. They'd never been to my house, knocked on my door. My mom knocks on my door in my room, says, hey, you got two friends here. Well, who? He's like, Jerry and Perry. Oh, the guys from Violence. How do they even find out where I live? Like, so Perry and Jerry descend into my lair, or ascend or whatever it is at that point. But they come in there, and it's just my bedroom with all my posters and everything. So, what they say, you're Violence material, right? And I'm like, I honestly said, no, I'm not. Like, what, I'm not. I'm all, dude, I'm totally blown away right now. I'm fucking shocked. I'm like, you guys are badass, but I like heavy metal, and you guys are more punk. Like, I'm a heavy metal guy. I got Russ. They didn't have Sean at this point.
Right, it was Jerry Burr.
It was Jerry, yeah.
And nobody knows Jerry.
No offense to Jerry, but
right.
Sean became an iconic thing, and Russ is very iconic himself. And I was like sticking with my thing, and I thought no one would ever leave this band because we're an arena rock band in my head at that time. Like we're on our way to be, with Russ. It's like arenas. My head was this. I was very loyal, which is
well, to be honest, out of all of the singers or vocalists for thrash metal, he was the only one of us, him and Joey Belladonna, that could sing. You know what I mean? I felt that I wasn't necessarily a singer. I'm more a growler, and I've refined it. I took my influence off of Bon Scott, but Russ could actually
what you have is a style.
Right.
And I had this conversation with Gary Holt. We were talking about guitar players, and I said, to sound like yourself is the greatest thing of all. If you know what somebody sounds like when you hear it, like that's the fucking greatest compliment.
That's the best compliment.
And Russ wasn't all that complimented by everybody back then because he intimidated the other singers at that time, and a lot of the bands didn't want to. Nobody really. They're like, look at that big red hair guy with all the fucking opera vocals. Ha ha ha. It wasn't until we did Victim of Changes at the Omni that a lot of people went, oh, okay. But that's way ahead. So let's get back to this moment. And it's not a big moment. It's a detour in history, guys. Like the thing is I realize that these things aren't big individually, but when this moment happened, it caused a rift in the metal world that ended up coming back together, and other great things have come of it. Like, how many trees of this, or branches of this Forbidden Evil tree went out? So I say no thank you. They leave. Then everything I said previous to this happened. So when Rob quit, I was like, I couldn't even verbalize it. I had nothing. I said something very insulting, and he says, well, thanks for making that easy on, for me, and then fucking walked out. I was like, that was it. So we had to get another guitar player, and I'm like, Rob, to me, at that point there's other guys that were more, blazing, but Rob was a pretty good blazer back then too, dude.
He can play. Rob can still.
Well, when he went to Violence, he changed. He went pentatonic, and he kept it real in the box. And back then, he was learning Uli shit and doing Yngwie stuff, and he was on the road to becoming a shredder if he wanted to. But really early on, Rob realized, and like I was saying earlier, it's about the song.
Sure.
So really early on, Rob's like, it's about the song. But he just joined a band with another great songwriter, in Phil, who hadn't even realized his best stuff yet. So them together was a fire fucking ignited, ready to happen. Rob all of a sudden had an attitude and, had an image that he didn't have in Forbidden Evil, because he could just be like Scumby. Remember he used to wear that Scumby shirt?
Yes.
That was Rob. He didn't give a fuck.
A lot of people didn't even think his name was Rob. They'd refer to him as the Scumby dude.
Yeah,
you know what
back
I mean?
in the very beginning.
In the very
he wore
beginning.
a Scumby shirt. It was Gumby with a belly and a fucking...
Scumby. Hey, remember the guitar player, the Scumby guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so, exactly.
That was the beginning of his, legacy, and I was still the kid in high school fucking... I was forced into leading the band. That was the moment that I was the leader. Russ wasn't going to lead like that at that moment, because he just wasn't... That just wasn't Russ. At that moment, I was like the 16-year-old kid. I'm like, oh shit. And even Paul would always give good advice,
honestly,
but he wasn't like
Craig,
that guy.
After knowing Russ, that's not his character.
No,
ever.
it's not.
It never
it's
really
not.
was.
He's like, well, so what do we do?
Right.
And we get a great guitar player. Someone's even better. Someone's greatest. We're just like, we're gonna find someone that can do everything. So we tried a bunch of guitar players, and I knew Glenn, dude. I knew Glenn from high school. When he was Ace, and he was breakdancing on the fucking floor, and people were like, "Hey, Ace!" and everyone was like high five and low five, and he's like wearing the big, Mexican suit. He wore all that shit, and he was, skinny kid back then, and his hair was always like pompadoured back with hella long. So I knew Ace, but after all trying all these dudes out, I get a phone call, and it's fucking from Ace at my mom's house. He's all, I don't remember what he said, but he always had a funny way. He's like, probably said, "What are you wearing?" Got all, he always starts a phone call and then starts. So I was like, what are you calling me for? I'm well, you're not interested in trying out for Forbidden Evil. Well, actually, yeah, man, this girl here said you're looking for a guitar player. I'm all, but you don't like thrash metal, bro. You're not into, I saw you play a month ago where you did Dokken and Van Halen and all this shit. And he was amazing, dude. He played all this shit. Shred. We were in a fucking warehouse, and I heard he could play fucking Eruption. That's an understatement to what Glenn was doing. It's an understatement. He was ripping Yngwie licks and fucking George Lynch licks and all this shit. But he had his back turned to everybody in the studio with one foot up on a ladder, and he was just turned away, just like he was just burning. People were like, "Wow, he's really good," but don't look at him because he didn't want to be looked at. You couldn't look at him, obviously, because he didn't want to be looked at because he was turned. It was like one of those moments, like, can this guy be good on stage? So I told the guys in the band, I said, Matt knew who he was, and he's all, Ace?
I love Ace.
But he had big, at that point, he had hair. He had hot. As Alexis Olsen said when he met him for the first time, before he joined the band, I brought him to see the Persuaders. Actually, we went to the Persuaders together, but I got us in.
The Persuaders.
Yeah, that's turned into Babylon AD.
Yes.
But so we're standing there, dude, and Alexis Olsen, this is before Glenn joins the band, after, and Alexis Olsen walks up to me, and he's all, this is the guy you're thinking about getting in the band? I'm like, yeah. He's all, got to get rid of the pineapple haircut.
Hot, the pineapple.
Yeah, haircut. I was like, So anyway, amazing. So we agreed. Glenn, once he learned the songs, the thing is, he came from a different background, so it complemented. And what he didn't have in the rhythm chops, he had in the flavor.
Oh yeah, he's like
flavor. A chef, he's got fucking a little dash of this, a little dash of that. So we were like, wow, he's really good. But we were worried he was going to have the fucking pineapple all the way up to the day of the show. When we talked to him on the phone before, he's all, I'm going to show up, my hair's going to be up. And we're like, no, you're not, dude. You're not going to start your legacy in Forbidden Evil like this. So he shows up, his hair's flat. He's like, laughing. And then we played our big Pony Express show where the Pizza of Death moment happened and all the pizza went flying. That was like another watershed moment. But so this whole thing with violence.
Again. Where are we at? With
this is all in '86.
This is probably towards the end of '86, right?
No, I don't think so. Well,
September, October.
Because
I had just joined.
You're
Exodus
right.
in June,
It's
so
like it's probably November.
Yeah, sure.
November, December when he joins the band, something like that. Like right towards there, and then we start doing our other shows. This is '86. We'd already played Ruthie's Inn by then. By the way, we played Ruthie's Inn with Metal Church in the day before New Year's Eve when they played with Metallica, Exodus, and Megadeth.
And Megadeth, right.
So that we were their opening.
At the Bill Graham
Eastern
Civic.
Front.
I remember that. Yep, Eastern Front. I remember that.
So anyway, going up to Glenn here. So there was something there, and the first songs we had written, and then I started writing other stuff, and then Glenn and I would write stuff at his house, and we used extracurricular influences, became faster. Everything became faster. And then I started playing Chalice of Blood really fast. And then when Rob left, it turned into that. It wasn't like that, dude. It was
like it that way, though.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it needs to be. That's the way it needs to be. We were hyped. We were hyped, like a lot of bands were in our era. And that was the beginning of that whole like super musical, because Glenn's here, and then making me better, and then Matt was starting to get better. Paul was finding his true calling and rolling, and Paul was an improviser since day one. Like his best shit on records is he doesn't work everything out. He'll leave an open spot and see what happens when he fucking turns the tape on. And he might never try it again, just like that. So he was doing that with us, and that was the beginning for him. So it was bombastic at that point.
That's
and
amazing.
Violence is fucking blowing up, and they're doing really well, and then we're coming up. But we're not there with them yet, because they're already out playing these shows, the bigger ones, and building a reputation. So, but there he goes. The trajectories from that one moment.
Well, even that trajectory hit me,
or a few moments, really.
I did the Tenet record with Glenn Alvarez, with Jed and Gene and Byron. So
yep, I have that on vinyl at my house.
It's amazing how incestual we all are, and we connected now. So now we're in the
incestual.
I did say incestual.
Well, it is a horror show.
It is. So now we're starting in '87, and the lineup is what it is right now. It's another year and a half before you put a record out, because you guys toured with us in '89
So
for Our Fabulous Disaster.
So in '87, as we start flying through, our first couple shows with Glenn were cool, but we needed a manager, and I'd heard Debbie Abano was Possessed was going the other direction.
The Queen.
Yeah, my love.
All of our love.
Yeah. Well, she took a phone call from me, cold called. I got her number somehow, probably through Wes Anderson. Or Wes Robinson.
Wes Robinson.
Not the movie director. Wes Robinson from Ruthie's Inn, who has also put us under his wing.
We'll do a whole episode on
Yeah, you should. I'd love to have a couple things to say about him.
There's a lot of episodes to do, Craig.
He was great. So anyway, I convinced him we needed a manager. He said that she's going to be maybe available, but she might not want to do anything with this anymore. So I cold called her, and I told her that we're going places. We're your next band. Well, we're Forbidden Evil. We're your next band. I heard that you're free. I was just 16, maybe 17, just like blah, 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 blah. Talked away. She's like, all right, honey, well, I'm not really that interested in doing this anymore. I did it because I love the kids. And she had only managed Possessed.
Right.
And she's all, but I'll be glad to help you out if you need some help. And so anyway, we make a demo with Glenn in the meantime. It drops, right? And it gets played on KUSF. We go all around KUSF, KSJO. We go to all the radio stations. Yeah, okay. So KUSF, we got played on KUSF, and people claimed they discovered us. It was everyone discovered us that night. Like we were played on the radio, and we got discovered.
I love that.
And Davey Vane called up Debbie Abano.
I love Davey Vane.
Yeah, he goes, Debbie, there's this band I discovered on KUSF. Who is that? Forbidden Evil. She said, oh, I'm talking to the guitar player. And then she called me, and she said, well, I've heard from Davey Vane that you guys got a buzz. So when are you playing? So I told her we're playing at the Twilight Zone in Alameda. They played it with like Lethal Creed, Tyrannicide.
Oh my!
And I can't fuck. I feel bad.
Damn.
Hex.
It
It wasn't in that order. I think Tyrannicide opened up, but it was our show, and she came out to it, and we fucking destroyed, man. You know, like that was the first time we had like a really good kind of show, not just a couple moments. It's pretty good. So she said, "Yeah, I'll manage you right then. Like, I'll do it. I'll help you guys out. I'll do." And so, you know, that's how Debbie Abano comes into the picture. So as soon as we announced that Debbie's managing us, probably happened within minutes. Violence guys are on the phone, fucking talking to Joey Houston, telling him we got to get her too. We can't have them go past us with her. And that happened that quick. And so that's when she agreed to co-manage. But I'll never forget Debbie when she tells us, because she knew the schism. She already knew. So I got to tell you guys something. So I can't trust this Joey Houston guy as far as I could throw him. She said that back then because she didn't trust anybody, really. It's nothing against Joey. This is just at the time.
That's funny.
But I'm going to help them out because they're going to go places too.
Cool.
And I'm like, they're going places. I'm like, do you know what you've done though? I was honest. So like, do you know what you've done? Like, holy shit. She's like, you guys are going to get along. And that's all there is to it. And there's not going to be any of this bullshit anymore.
Okay.
And that took a while.
It took a while.
Yeah,
It did.
Yeah. There was more bullshit
Yes,
right then.
Of course there was.
Yeah.
Of course there was.
But it was, you know, in their defense, like, they're a territorial band.
Everybody was. Everybody was vying for the number one spot. You know what I mean?
You know what Paul Bostaph said to me even way back then?
It was the way
You know
it
what
was.
Paul Bostaph said to me probably when we first fucking got together? He's always wise. The thing about Paul is you got to get him when everyone's out of the room and it's just you and him and you have a real talk. He was always Paul at the end of a night. And he goes, you know, Craig, there's plenty of room at the top. Just all those motherfuckers are always trying to push each other off. And I'm like, you're right. You're right. So for us, our philosophy wasn't the same because we had guys like Matt. Russ is very, you know, he's not a confrontational person.
Sure.
I'm probably the most confrontational, but at the same time, I always felt like, even when it was going on, and I've had these conversations with Rob, I've talked to like Phil. I sat in we talked about all kinds of shit in his house, you know, in his room. It's like we just weren't so concerned with competition because we felt like we were different than all the other bands. It wasn't really that we were trying to be on top. It was like we felt like we had a different path. And we didn't know where it was going to take us, but we didn't have that whole competition thing with any of the bands, really, not even them. But we had to stand our ground in plenty of like moments
I
where
remember that.
where they were trying to like, you know, knock us down.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
with no disrespect, it was just everybody was kids. Everybody wanted to be the biggest and best thing that they could be. So, you know, it wasn't like we didn't like each other or respect each other, but I'm in competition with you and I'm going to try to get that, you know, the next vie up. And what I love about the scene now is we all see each other and there's none of that.
None of it.
All just gone.
It's like Cal gone.
Exactly.
It all got washed off,
and
bro.
when we see each other, it's like, how are you? Good to see you.
Love,
The kids.
family.
Exactly.
You guys got to
So
get this about this. What
yeah.
he's saying is totally true because all this stuff we're talking about, I don't want it misconstrued as like it's coming from a place of bitterness because
No, not at all. No, it's
What
just
I'm
the
telling
truth.
you,
It's just the truth.
It came out later, like the whole thing with Violence and me and all that stuff. That didn't really. I didn't even say it out loud. The guys in my band knew, but they didn't care. They're like, well,
Right.
you didn't take the gig, so
Sure.
what difference does it make?
Right.
But it made a difference because just imagine
Sure.
how different the landscape of metal would have worked.
Of anything.
I don't think it would have been. It definitely wouldn't have been the same. Probably wouldn't have been as good because everyone did what they were supposed to. I did those years with Forbidden. I learned how to write. I learned how to take the brunt of it on my shoulders. And I got to say about the time in competition for Forbidden, it was, I would say, everybody but me really let the music do the talking. You know, like I would talk shit. Matt would talk shit, but it would be different. It would be like with a laugh. I was like the loudmouth. Everybody, music really did our talking for us. We didn't. Paul's not the kind of guy. Russ ain't the kind of guy. And so I just think that all these moments culminated to we had to reinvent what we were doing. And that's where.
But still stay the same course, kind of, not fall too far off.
No,
'Cause I don't feel that you
no.
did.
But what happened
Even
was
with Rob-
there was an awakening of like real for me personally, there was a real fucking songwriting opening up. Like, it wasn't just going to be riffs and solos and vocals and screaming. It was like, we're going to fucking construct music. And that's when I started writing Step by Step and One Foot in Hell after we'd done Forbidden Evil. But that's probably shouldn't go quite that far yet, because I think you probably want to talk about Forbidden Evil era a little bit. Of course. Yeah. All right, well, fast forward, about a year with Debbie. Violence is already signed to...
It's about 88 now, right? About
they're
88.
signed to Mechanics.
They're signed to Mechanics.
We're negotiating with everybody.
But you go with Combat,
We
right?
went with Combat, but we negotiated with everybody. We had the pick of the litter of what was out there. Capital, Roadrunner, Metal Blade, and Combat were the four that we really took seriously. And was it Capital? And there's one more. Which one was Rigor Mortis on? Were they on Capital?
Yeah, that was Capital.
Okay, so it was Capital. So yeah, we had this four, and we had, we met everybody. We met all the people from all the different labels, and quite frankly, Combat offered us more money.
That's why we went with Combat. To be honest with you,
yeah, like they
were the major labels were just kind of dangling, worms,
development deals.
Yeah, but the independents were dangling stakes, and we were like, well, you know what?
They already had.
Fuck that. We'll take the stake.
They already had Megadeth, and they'd already
Right.
had Merciful Fate, and they'd
Right.
already had all this stuff that had gone through the ranks. Between them and Roadrunner, they went back and forth. The ping pong and Metal Blade, they were all just they're all kind of ping ponging around. So, we went with them, and also partly because we love Joe Satriani, and they brought Joe to one of our shows to try to schmooze us into signing with him.
Yeah,
and
Joe was Relativity. He wasn't Combat, but they were both the same. They were both divisions. It was Relativity and Combat. Combat held the metal guys. Relativity had like Satriani, Steve Vai.
Yeah, they had the Shredders.
Yeah, they had the Shredders.
Impellitteri.
That's right, Chris Impellitteri.
It goes on and on.
Yeah,
they had
Greg Howe.
They were starting to do the instrumental albums.
Yeah, right.
They were taking over where
Mike Varney Shrapnel left off. Exactly.
We're on the same fucking.
Yes, exactly. We were there. We know.
Yeah. So anyway, we went with them, and the Joe Satch thing came into play, and that was really cool. He came to our show at the Stone. It was a sold out show. He's like, "You guys are a great guitar duo." He's like totally into it. But to Glenn, it was like God spoke to him. He's like, "This Svengali, like, it's
That
like,
kind of was.
We got to be like Satch, we got to."
Kind of was.
But that was a moment. That was another watershed moment because, it brought us into the record with everyone the band had one goal, and Glenn had a different goal at that time. He wanted to really come out like he wanted to do like almost an instrumental type of record and stand out in that way. And everybody else is like, dude, this is, you're shredding in songs.
We want songs, right? You guys we're known about songs.
One day, dude,
right?
we came back and he got there early and recorded a bunch of shit for an instrumental song. And I'll never forget how pissed off Paul got. He's like, what are you fucking doing? It wasn't on the docket. That's not even that got scrapped like right then. So,
So Glenn was on the record. Glenn was on
the
Forbidden
fucking
Evil.
shreds all over the record, dude. Like here's how it worked. It was great too. It actually was a really good combination when it started because, basically, a song like Eyes of Glass, for instance, he had a whole middle section of a slow instrumental thing he written that started with a da, da, which turned into all the fast little bass. But he had that, and that whole idea was very slow, but it was really cool. And Paul and I, I wrote a bunch of riffs and started writing music around it, and then Paul and I wrote it, and then that was dropped right in the center of it and turned out to be the recurring fucking amazing part, right? So that's like at its best, that was at its best. That's what it could have been, but it just veered into, he wanted it to be more instrumental and more shred and stand out and, stand in the middle of pictures, which we didn't even pay attention to when he was doing it. Like old pictures, like Rob's like, why is Glenn standing in the middle? Like, I don't know. I didn't even think about it because I didn't think about it. Neither did Russ, obviously, because he would have said, move over, We're just like standing there. So it started that whole thing. And, we knew we were going to have to replace him at some point if it just kept snowballing into that. And it did. And that's when we started looking for guitar players, and we ended up hearing about Tim Calvert.
Timmy Calvert. God, what a great...
Yeah, and like...
3 good ones, right? Bang, bang, bang.
The 3 great ones.
Yeah.
Great.
Amazing.
Great.
Yeah,
All
amazing.
underrated. All
Yeah,
underrated.
I
Rob's very
agree.
underrated as a guitar player too, man.
Yeah, and Glenn, it's still to this day, I don't think Glenn gets the respect that
Nope,
he
he
needs.
doesn't.
Shredder.
And he deserves better
Shredder,
respect.
yes,
but
he
there's,
does. And
therein
Timmy, unfortunately-
lies the onion. Like there's a lot of this stuff that we make choices, and for us we were starting to work with Tim, and I was teaching him everything. That I started writing not Child's Blood, Step by Step, and One Foot in Hell, and I was showing it to Tim, and then coming to practice, and then showing it to Paul, and then Glenn was around when we started working on it. So he started coming up with stuff to it, but it was stuff that I'd written with me and Tim and Paul. So we were already working on a couple of those songs and played them both in Europe on the first tour we did with Sacred Reich after the album had dropped. And knowing that, and I told Tim, you're not 100% in the band, bro. We're going to go to Europe. Debbie is not all in on this. She wants to salvage the thing with Glenn, if it can be salvaged. And that was the intent. And we went to Europe, and there was just a couple moments where it was like,
Okay, and where are we at now? We're in '89 now, right?
we're in '89. We're on tour in Europe. We're out with Sacred Reich.
What months are these?
I believe this has got to be like March or something.
Yes.